specialist companies available in Rotterdam. You have banks, insurance companies, trading houses. We said that the excellent industry build-up is also one of it. That is their technological build-up. So they have all these things there. So it's easy to do business there. When you have a headquarters there, it's easy for you to reach any part of the world. And for that reason, it had created the room for growth of the port of Rotterdam. Okay. In 202, more than 322 million tons of goods were transshipped through Rotterdam. When they bring the ships bring the cargoes there and they distribute them to other parts of the world. Now, what are the factors that influence port accessibility? When we talk about port accessibility, what makes it possible? The transport possibilities to and from the port, seaports, they are subject to two main factors or conditions. That is the depth of water and then the hinterland connection. So if you have a good hinterland connection, if, for example, you look at, let's use Ghana here. If you take a place like Kumasi, it is centrally positioned. If it has good connections, even some of the industries that are here, they will prefer to position themselves there, because you can move from there over to the western part of the country, eastern part, northern part, and then southern part. So if you have such a position and then you have the good connections, there's good railway, there's good roads, there's good air travel, and in their part of the world, there's also the added part of not only sea transport, but inland water transport. Okay, and they are well positioned for that. They have very good hinterland connections by rail, road, air, and then sea. So it's easy for it to become a node in the intermodal transport. Now, this is a lock. In some countries, when you are going there, you have to pass through a lock. One example is the dock or port of Tilbury. Because of that, it couldn't grow. In those days when it was useful to have the lock, then ships went there. But today, the Tilbury dock in UK is in London. Is virtually dead, just because the size of the dock is not big enough. Maybe they could even extend it, but then it is limiting. It is limiting in the sense that when a ship is going, if you look at the size of this lock, in those days when ships were small, it could take about 4 ships, one here, one there, one here, and then one there. Then they'll close the gate. There's a gate here, and there's a gate here. If this ship alone, I'm sure, would occupy the whole lock. So when she goes in, then they would open this gate, and then they would open this one and close another gate here. The purpose of the lock is in ports that are upriver. You know, the river being connected to the sea at certain times, especially when it is a bit close to the sea, it is influenced by the tidal range. That is the inflooding of water and then the outflow of water. Even here in the Tema dock, you can see it, that sometimes the water height is high and sometimes it is low. You can see its effect on the ship, so they keep going back and forth. Almost everywhere in the world, you always have tidal range. Some have very high tide. You go to a port like Matadi in the Congo, at certain times you can't even work a cargo because the ship will be below the dock. Well below the dock, you can't work cargo. So you can work cargo only when she comes up. Okay. So in these parts of the world, what happened is they had the locks in position to check the water outflow from here. So the lock is here. So every time there will be the ships here, all the water will not flow out to sea, thereby making the ships to ground touch the seabed. Okay, so for that reason, they constrain the movement of the water. So when you are going in, they will close this gate, which is always closed anyway. Then they will close, you come in, they will bring you in here, close this one, and then open this for you to go. As soon as you go in, they will shut this back and then leave this open. So they are always transporting ships that way. So when it is big, like I said, initially when it could take about 4 ships, it means you have to wait for 4 ships to be ready to pass before you pass. It is a limitation, isn't it? Because when you are ready, you want to go, they said they are not ready, you have to wait for the others to come before you can go. So it was a drawback. But when you come to Rotterdam, you don't have anything of that sort. There's another country, Belgium, or Bremen. Bremen also has the same problem. The port of Bremen, you always have to wait. You have to pass a lock before you go in. So it becomes a hindrance. Because when you are ready, you want to go, you should be able to go, not wait for others to come before you go. So it is very, very important. Water depth is of utmost importance to a seaport, particularly to be able to take in the ever-increasing sizes of vessels. Initially, when vessels were not very big, it wasn't so much a problem. But today, if you should go to the port, you see some, mammoth vessels sitting in there. If you don't have the depth of water, you can't handle them. Even here in Temaport, they have a problem. The deepest part is at berth 1 and 2. So they have to do a lot of shifting of ships. Okay, when the ship comes in and berths, if she's deep drafted, that means she has a lot of her body in the water, they will have to bring her to either berth 1 or berth 2. Then when she has discharged some of the cargo and come up, before they shift her to another place. So it's a disturbance to the working of the ship. Okay, so deep draft is water depth is very, very important. If a port wants to become a major port, then they should have ways of increasing the depth of water. And that is why they built the Terminal 3. That side is much deeper. Terminal 17 to 20, the MPS side, because the container ships are also deep drafted, and they want to also, they had the land, big land, to be able to handle all the containers that they have to put on shore. Okay. Says all the major seaports in the world, without any exception, enjoy naturally occurring deep water. Okay. So if it is a major seaport, it's because it has deep water. That is why it is able to keep up with the game. Or they undertake the deepening of the channels on a regular basis, like in the Rotterdam. They are always dredging, always dredging to get over the problem of silting and reduce depth. And this is part of Europort. Okay, they have a lot of spaces for railway wagons and rail lines and all over. As I said, if you go there, you think it's a city by itself. Interland Connection means the possibility of sea cargoes arriving from sea-going vessels, the big ones, and then being transshipped to the other ports through other means of transport like road, rail, or even inland waterway, or sometimes smaller sea-going vessels. Okay. It is also a very, very important element which determines the competitiveness of a seaport. For a seaport to be competitive, she must have good interland connections. If she doesn't, for example, if these Burkina and Mali trucks, we didn't have good routes, they wouldn't have come here. Because it would mean that when you load the cargo from here by road, it would take you months before you get it. We see that problem if you go to the Congo, DR Congo, what used to be Kinshasa, isn't it? And they changed their name. And you go to DR Congo, because of the very bad nature of roads there, when they are importing cargoes, and the country is a very big country, very large, when they are importing cargoes to the eastern part of the country, they prefer to import it through Mombasa, Kenya, and transport it by land than to import it through their own ports on the western side, because the roads are so bad. You spend days and sometimes weeks or months on the road getting to the eastern side. But coming from Kenya through those places where the transportation is good, the road infrastructure is good,